their pain improved like significantly.
4 players competing for patient relationship are the CROs, the sponsors, the tech vendors, and the sites.
I think technology, it's overwhelming, but things like Florence or Versatile in this case, things like that, I think makes the job easier. We're in an era where people are just not proactive. They're just, they have to like with apples show what you want them to do. The best patients, we have good patients all across the board, but the best ones are the ones that come from within your PI's clinics.
Guru Nation, this is part 10 of a 10-part series. If you are keeping track at home, if you're not, I don't blame you, because I just knew it was part 10 right now. But Jaime Valles, who had to make an appearance in this 10-part series, because the whole 10-part series is we're in the golden era of research sites. Okay. And I think we have a decade, maybe less, to really do this well, extract value, with or without private equity. I think that's becoming less important, honestly. But, I mean, obviously, if you have private equity, it helps you because you can go acquire like 5 sites in a year.
Do it faster.
As opposed to building them or working out of partnerships one-on-one. But I think we can probably do that better than most, setting up the partnerships. But this is something we're doing at our site, Yuma Clinical Trials. Correct. And we're thinking about expanding to San Luis.
Yeah.
So the other day, Dr. Joe, who you know, people may know from the podcast, that he put it on pause for a little bit, but he'll eventually come back.
He'll be back.
He wants to be PI now.
Correct.
And I told him, well, Dr. Smith gave you the green light.
Correct.
We could move to a city 20 minutes south of here called San Luis.
Right next to the border.
Right, a stone's throw, as the realtors would say, from the border. And he's all into it. So that would be a de novo site. Like, we didn't really need money for that.
Correct.
We just use existing profits, some of them, to invest in a new site there. I told him our goal would be by the end of the year to have it maybe open.
Yeah.
And maybe not with a study, but at least have it open. And in order to do that, you need to have the staff. And as you know, life happens with staff. Mm-hmm. And you have people, moving.
Correct.
Life events. So you always need 2 things. You need more studies than you think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And we're living in that moment right now because we thought we had too many studies and then one gets delayed.
Correct.
And another one is delayed, and you're like, well, I'm glad we said yes to those other ones.
Yeah, no, definitely.
We have that Botox one that is kind of an afterthought, but now, in hindsight, happy we took it.
Okay.
Same thing with that other cardio one. That
correct.
The budget's okay, but it's like gives us something to do in the meantime.
Yeah, I agree.
And the second thing you need more of than you think is staff.
Correct.
Because without those 2 things, you don't have a business. I mean, of course, you need patience, but that comes a little bit later.
Yeah. In that sense, it's interesting because coming from, I've been a nurse since 2009, and then always worked for a big company, then became an MP. I'm working for a big company as an MP. And one of the things that most lines of work, if you will prioritize is maximizing your resources. So like maximizing what everybody can do, and then hire more, right? So it's been a challenge for me, I'm being honest, to now be part of the owners and have overstaff. And then I'm thinking, we're not maximizing the staff we have. But in the other hand, what is very difficult in research is you can just hire a nurse and train them in 2 weeks and they're on their own. Here is a process, like about 3 months.
It's about 3 months.
About 3 months where that new hire needs to learn it's a whole new world. So it's different in research. So it was just a learning experience for me.
Yeah, and there comes quarters like we've come up after about 8 profitable quarters in a row where we give ourselves pretty big dividends. Mm-hmm. We might be coming on the first one where we don't have a big dividend, if any.
Yeah.
Which is tough to get used to after basically 2 years of foreseeable growth, and now we've had a tough first half of the year where it was hard to get any patient screened or randomized. Yeah. We still did here and there. Luckily we had existing visits from other studies.
Correct.
That's kind of paying the bills, but we still have retained earnings, and you still have, if you've run your research properly the last 2 years, which we kind of have, you can survive these, like Daniel's shirt, cold summer.
Cold summers.
By the way, stand here, show the camera, man, especially the back. This is exactly the quote. Weather the storm. So it is a cold summer for many because of and then weather the storm until the sun shines again. Right?
And it will shine again.
We're going to be selling those, right?
Yes,
soon.
I'm still working on it.
Okay, we're going to sell those on the website, but basically we're weathering the storm.
Correct.
Like that shirt was we've designed it for ourselves without realizing.
Yeah.
In a recursive way, we made it for ourselves, because this might be the first summer we don't take a dividend, or we take a very little one.
Yeah.
And we have to make decisions like, do we forego a dividend to open a new site and to hire a new staff with a lot of uncertainties? And so this video is kind of the 10th part of this whole, how do you grow and build a site network? Why is it the golden era? But even within a golden era, you're still going to have periods of roller coaster rides.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's life. Just life. That's just how it is. And the better we weather the storm, the better we'll be at the end when the sun's shining again.
Yes. And hopefully the sun shines again soon, because we have been doing well and getting a lot of studies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this 10th part is about the patient relationship.
Okay.
Who will own it? Who will control it? And ultimately, in the era of AI, where AI tries to replace everything, mm-hmm. I think site owners and even coordinators are pretty safe from AI taking over their role. I don't think AI could run a site. I don't think they can now, for sure. I don't think in 10 years they can. And it comes down to the patient relationship. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, I agree. I think AI will be able to help a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Like in a lot of areas, right? But as humans, I think we value the interaction with another human. Like, how many times we're not annoyed when we make a phone call trying to get through us, customer service person at the other end, and you just get the run around with the machine not understanding what you're saying and whatnot. I experienced this during COVID. I don't know if, but probably most people know, a lot of clinics closed and they weren't seeing patients in person, only by phone or by video calls. And at that time, I was working in an urgent care, and we never closed our doors. Even though it was this very small town, we were still seeing super high volume of patients sick with COVID. So we the staff, we had to take all precautions. Then God protected us. None of the staff where I worked, it had end up with COVID during the bad seasons, if you will. But people, that's what they said. No, I want somebody to listen to my lungs. I want somebody to see me how I'm doing, how I'm feeling, not over the phone. So that was one of the main things a lot of people, a lot of patients that we took care of said. And same goes for research. Patients will value the human interaction, the empathy for what they're going through. We struggle with them to get them over the goal, or keep them on the study, or if they are having challenges with diet and exercise, because now a lot of the studies are weight loss driven. We're there for them instead of a machine just being like, eat more lettuce.
Or like even something like like these diaries that we give patients, right? They get text, auto reminder, did you
Yeah.
Get your medicine today.
Correct.
How do you feel? Did you fill out your diary?
Yeah.
Like those, if you know that's not a real person, you tend to ignore it. Like,
Correct.
man, that's not so important. This is automated, and we value the interaction with a human because that the clinician's spending his time or her time talking to me as the patient.
Correct.
That's valuable time as opposed to a machine. Like,
Correct.
we know intuitively that that's not valuable, so then why should I value this relationship?
Correct. I agree. I think that's pivotal in whether it's a clinic or research. That's one of the most important things, the relationship between the patient or subject in this case and the clinician or the staff. I think that's and we've seen that. I mean, I've seen that because in research we spend way more time with subjects than we would normally do in the clinic.
Yes.
And in the clinic, not because we don't want to, it's just because we can't.
Well, so with the new administration, so check this out. I got this, I think I sent it to you. I got this secret report that was given to me, and I promised not to share anything about who gave it to me, but I read through the whole thing, ran it through AI. This is what kind of made this 10-part series. So I have real data here in front of me. So the players competing for this relationship, not just sites like us, it's CROs like Icon, PPD, IQVIA. They're buying sites, they're building site networks, and they're putting tech stack on top of it. So they're putting like patient ACE. I wish they would put patient ACE. We're early still, but they're putting similar technologies around that stuff. So like ExcellaCare, AES, AvaCare. AES, for example, is a site network. It has access to, this is a tech stack. It has access to 20 million patient records. And then Icon, the big CRO, claims 60% faster enrollment to sponsors if they use Icon versus another one because they use these tech, which supposedly have these access to record. But as you know, and I know, we have access to how many records between your clinic, Smith's, Shaw, Alluri.
Pasejas.
I mean, we're in a small town, so it's not 20 million.
Of course.
But we have maybe 300,000.
It's a big number.
And yet we struggle just like everyone else to enroll because these studies are getting complex.
Yeah. I think it's part of what it is. We're trying to get medications approved for a particular indication, which in this case, let's just say diabetes. But now the drug is not intended just for diabetes. They want also patients with, let's just say, heart failure. So because they want to target that population. So the diabetic population is huge. Now, when you put diabetes with heart failure, you reduce that, and then you start reducing it with all these other exclusions. So it becomes harder to get patients in, or to find the patients that meet the criteria for each protocol. But having access to, obviously, the more patients you have access to, the better chances you have to find the right subject. But it sounds better than what it is in real life, I think.
Right. And the sponsor, I don't think, understand that. And then this new FDA administration, who just came into establishment this year, Macquarie, who's the head, I have his book next to read, and Prasad, who's in charge of biologics and research. I have a feeling our study that got delayed is delayed because of him, because they're a biologic with another drug. And so I think one of the things Prasad said in his book I'm reading is we don't want surrogate endpoints. We want real world endpoints in the studies. Okay. So the biggest example is like a tumor shrinkage versus overall survival. And especially in an era where there's so much competition, like let's say weight loss or heart disease, you need to show to this new administration that it's demonstrably better, not just the same. And so I think all these sponsors are going back now and looking at their protocol and saying, well, do we have the endpoints the FDA wants? And I'm sure they're having conversations with the FDA. Yeah. And the FDA is saying, well, if you really want the best chance of us looking at this data favorably, we would like to see this,
Of
and
course.
that. This is why I think that study we recently got the letter is delayed and not canceled.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I
It
don't
could
know.
just be canceled.
I would think it depends on the phase of the study, right? Like if they cancel in phase 2, and
Yeah,
then
the phase
I
2.
think it's a more chances of a study being canceled. But if it's
Yeah.
phase 3, I would assume they have enough data to even move to phase 3 already.
Right.
So it just might be amending the protocol to like meet the goals of the FDA.
Yep.
But especially if like phase 4 study, then it's definitely probably that.
But we've seen this in our own clinic, even in a small anecdotal space. So sponsors are pushing for decentralized trials, patient-facing apps. Sponsors are also bypassing CROs and going direct to sites for communication. We've seen it with some of the bigger sponsors. They come direct to us, and then they put us in touch with the CRO to do the study startup. But the selection and all that
It comes directly from them.
And you made a good relationship with one of them recently, and
I think so.
you're if we do this site network, you're like the VP of ClinOps.
Okay.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about later today.
I like that.
No, we have to. I talked to someone yesterday who has his site set up in a certain way, his network, and but sponsors are even building like internal site networks too. Like Pfizer has Pfizer clinical research units.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, we saw that with a couple other big companies where they have the rep from the sponsor directly contact us from 2 different big companies, and they work with us very well. And I like that. From one of them told us that what they want is they just don't want the same as usual, right?
Right.
It's like what we say sometimes: if you want something different, don't keep doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's they are building the relationship with us, the sites, directly, and then
that's smart.
Yeah, I think so. And
Because so the CROs, the sponsors, the tech vendors, and the sites, they're all competing for the patient relationship.
Correct. Yeah. And then when there's an issue, let's say something's being delayed, not really an issue, but let's say we need something that we haven't gotten yet or whatever. If we don't get a good response from the CRO, we tell them and they make it happen quick.
Well, some better than others.
Of course, yeah. Or sometimes it's all a matter of CCing them on email, like, hey, we're missing, I don't know, lab kits or whatever, and consider it done pretty much.
Well, did you see the one recent example of one of our CRCs was given somewhat of a hard time by a monitor?
Yeah.
You and I, of course, thought the worst, like she's not doing her job.
Yeah.
In reality, it was the
was
monitor
other one,
putting unrealistic expectations on her, and the sponsor got involved and is managing it. I think the way it should be managed.
Yeah, I think so. It's like our kids, right? I mean, who else is gonna take better care of our kids than ourselves?
There you go.
Like we might send them to school. Let's say that's a CRO, but we have to monitor what they do, and we have to go back to our kid and be like, hey, how you doing? What do you need?
That's a good analogy.
You know,
man.
I
so sponsors are like the parents, sites are the kids.
I mean, they're
and
investing
the
so
CROs
much money.
like the babysitters.
Yeah, they're investing so much money. They got to make sure this works, right? So we've been to an experience where the study wasn't conducted properly, and unfortunately, it's a drug, an IP that I think, from what I saw, because I assessed those patients, it was a pain study. Their pain improved significantly. And because they became open label, so it was obvious that even if the patients probably weren't placebo before, because there was no relief, after the open label, everybody got better. And then the study gets shut down just because it was not conducted properly, but not by us.
And it was an e-diary to blame.
Yeah, it was simple as that. It's simple as,
which is a tech vendor.
So in that case, I can definitely see why the sponsor's like, no, I'm gonna make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to go.
Very good. I like that analogy, man. So it's like parents with their kids, sponsors on the sites, the CRO or the babysitter, and now you have an environment where the parents can work from home.
Correct.
It's basically taking that analogy further. because the sponsor are more connected now to their children. They can do their job while also watching the kids.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but some sponsors they're skipping the CROs altogether.
Yeah.
They're doing it themselves, right?
We have one right now, and actually that's a small one, which is rare.
Yeah.
That one is ballsy. The one, and they get their hiccups here and there. Like, not everything works smooth. We're still waiting on some things, and that's why people are out of window a lot. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's better situation for them.
Yeah, I mean, who's gonna, like, going back to the kids? Nobody will mean the best for your kids than yourself, right?
I agree.
And I think the sponsors, they're investing so much money that they have to make sure this works and everything's done properly. And I like that. And to be honest, as a site, as a sub investigator, I like when our CRC or monitor, it's very involved. It's very good. They keep us on our toes. They're like asking right away, hey, what's going on? And because at the end of the day is patient safety. We want to make sure the patient's safe. And if we get let's say an alert on the lab, many times it's been taken care of, but they're asking about it whenever we address it already on our end. It just so I like that, and when we have the reps from the companies directly involved, I think it's a great thing for everything, for the study itself, but ultimately for the patients.
Most sites report the same thing. So just to recap this section, the 4 players competing for patient relationship are the CROs, the sponsors, the tech vendors, and the sites. We'll spend some time on that, but just more examples of the tech vendors. So like CVS Pharmacy, for example, they're still trying to do research, and they have 90 million customer records. 70% of a U.S. resident lives within 3 miles of a CVS. Wow. And if they all do like little pop-up clinics, but they don't do the complicated studies. They do the simple studies.
I mean, in that sense, they might know 1 or 2 diagnoses of the patient, but it's a good pool of patients to pull from.
But they don't have that trust.
But they don't have the trust, and they don't have the full records of the patient either.
That's right.
They only have, like, let's say you get in a blood pressure medication. Well, this patient must be having blood pressure issues, right? So, or when we prescribe a medication, it's attached to a diagnosis. So they have those diagnoses, but they don't have the full record.
Right.
And the trust, ultimately the trust.
Especially if it's a large chain like CVS. I mean, it's not like you and I were to own a pharmacy. We know like every patient.
Correct.
We know their kids' birthdays.
Correct.
I mean, those days are gone. So that model has not worked for CVS. Walgreens stopped doing it.
Yeah.
CVS, I think, will be next. But it's still an example of trying to control this patient narrative. So what it means to own the patient relationship, it's not just having a phone number, sending emails. It's the first to call when a trial is mentioned. They call you. The patient's waiting for you, for your site. Oh, I heard you have a new study. I saw it on Instagram. Like the reason we do the YCT videos. I mean, people watch those, and it's like the fans of the guests that end up being interested, right?
Correct.
Like the one we did with the NP yesterday. She's got a good amount of fans, and she's the one doing the marketing for us. And in the beginning of the pod, I mentioned, and I'm wearing my shirt, I mentioned what we do, call this number, which goes straight to CRO. Well, hopefully our staff's answering it, but that's something on Monday that I put on there people need to do. But building trust, cultural competence, offering value outside of just the trial participation. And here's the crazy stat, and you will find this now that you've been doing research for 4 years. 2 out of 3 investigators only do 1 trial ever. So that means 2 out of 3, for every 3 investigators that do their first trial, 2 of them never do another one. And that's because they don't realize how they think it's money's going to fall from the sky.
Yep.
And in reality, especially if they don't have a coordinator and they're doing it themselves, and these monitors emailing them, do this, this, and that, and they give it to their MA.
Yeah. On top of it, it would take forever to set everything up. Like in forever, I mean about a year. 6 months to a year, maybe.
Yeah.
To set everything up, get your CLIA waivers, everything.
If they know they have to do that.
Yeah. So it'll take a long time. And then they're research naive. So the first study they'll get is going to be one of the hardest studies out there.
And one of the suckiest studies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if the budget will not be good either. But let's forget about the budget itself. Let's just forget.
It could be an infinite budget if you don't enroll anyone. It's worthless.
Yeah. So it's they'll get the toughest study. That's what happened to us. The very first study was almost impossible, and I think they ended up canceling that one, right?
We just finished out.
Yeah.
I was nice, and we did. Actually, I have to build them. Let me put on my to-do list.
Yeah, but the first study, as a research naive person, it's gonna be one of the hardest you'll ever get, because then after that you're considered to have experience. So I'm assuming after the first, after the first experience on the first study, they're like, no, I'm done with this. And I only made, I actually lost money. I paid more to my coordinator than what I made out of the study.
Yeah.
So I'm done. And I can definitely see that. And I think that's why, one of the reasons why we've been successful to the point we've been so far, it's number one, we have a great PI. Number two,
the first one we started with.
Yeah.
And now
we have multiple good PIs.
Yeah, like the cardiologist.
Yeah.
From Katie's reporting, he might be the best.
I think they're all good, and they're not just good in the sense for researchers as a PI, they're good providers. Like all of our PIs are great providers. They have a great relationship. I mean, all of them. Yeah, actually, all of them have people working like NPs or PAs working on their office. Because all the amount of patients they have, that they can manage them themselves.
But here's the thing, though. Like, the reason 2 out of these 3 investigators quit is because maybe a rep tells them, hey, you should consider, or somehow they get a study because a sponsor needs that population. And the PI says, yeah, awesome, and then I'll assign my sharpest medical assistant, and she can do this in between injections and vital and cleaning, and the MAs at our clinics do laundry. They make them do everything, mop the floor. In between all that, you're going to be a coordinator. It doesn't work. Coordinator's full-time job. Even when you don't have patients, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, because emails, they don't just come at 9 a.m. They come at any, and then different time zones.
And then access to this portal and that portal, which that's the next topic. So the technology arms race.
Okay.
Right now, you were at SOS. You're going next year, right? It's San Diego. That's
easy.
I mean, bring the whole fam.
I will. They're already counting on that.
I'm not supposed to say anything, and I forgot the name of it anyways, but it's a nice place right on the water.
It's in San Diego, or up north?
No, right in San Diego, near SeaWorld, right on the water. You feel like you're in Hawaii, though. It's like secluded.
Oh. I think I know where it is.
Yeah,
I know which one it is.
Maybe.
I might know.
Maybe. I'll show you.
I don't know. You haven't told me, and I haven't seen it.
I forgot the name of it, but yes, it's in my head, the images, and people are going to love it. But you're going to see at this last SOS and for sure next year, tech, everything, everyone tech, everyone at AI. This Oklahoma one was talking about AI and let the AI do this and let the AI do that. And I interviewed someone yesterday who owns 8 sites in Dallas. Smart dude. Nice. I got to introduce you to him. He created his own software. He's kind of like Ronick, where he programmed a bunch of stuff. But ultimately, it's like everyone's trying to do those same things. Yeah. Like Monday, for example, is one way to project management tool. Then you have a business development tool. Then you have a patient recruitment tool like Patient Ace. Then you have like a CRO. And that's just what the site uses. Then when you get the study, the sponsor gives you like 15 more portals. I mean, here in my Versa trial, look, a random study, look how many portals we have.
20.
None of these are our own. So our own are in addition to these. One of them is our own. But look how many. I mean, how would any non-full-time person be able to do this properly?
It's
tech overload.
I mean, we had an employee in the past, like super good one, like good feelings, meant the best for the patient. Just couldn't keep up with
excellent work ethic.
Yeah, with the technology, and this particular person had been a stay-at-home mom for a long time, so technology, like, it just didn't surpass the abilities. It just went beyond, and it just not, it was not going to work out because there's so many. Like right now, we have, let's say, around 8 studies, just to give a number, right, give or take,
more or less. Yeah.
About 8 either enrolling, finish enrolled, and whatnot.
More than that. Look at these.
Yeah, we have a
We
few.
have like 12 to 15. I think.
And each one has like 15 to 20 portals.
Yes.
You know, so you're
this report says 20 plus systems per trial.
Yeah.
So not from us anecdotally.
Yeah.
This report from
Yeah.
PE says the same thing. 20 plus.
And that's accurate, you know, like, and it becomes overwhelming. This it's called Versatile, right? Right now I think it's called Florence.
Florence owns it, yeah, but
Yeah.
Versatile is like a bookmark for them.
So it comes in handy as you have no idea. You don't have to be looking for who's my coordinator, who's my a medical director.
Yeah, see, they put the contacts here.
They put
on
the contacts right there, and you have access, like, links to the portals, and that's been a game changer for us, I think, that we use it. But
just simple things.
Yeah.
Like, just to get your, and then Monday takes that a step further because you have everything on the side, and then each one you kind of put the details of what's going on. Chris is doing this budget right now. He says it's good. He says it's fair, not good, but they're not gonna. We're getting the max for most sites.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where we do have some study delays, so it's not bad to have something going on.
Yeah, I think technology, it's overwhelming, but things like Florence or Versatile in this case, things like that, I think makes the job easier.
Yeah, but you know it's hard for the people to adopt even things like Versatile or Patient Ace. Like Versatile is free. Monday you can use a free version. We have a paid one. When you tell a site or a coordinator, here's another portal.
Yeah.
That's the last thing they want to hear.
We heard that with Monday.
Yeah, that's the last thing they want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, another one? But this portal's to make your other portals easier.
Yeah.
So you're having portals to help you manage your other portals, like a
Yeah.
recursive loop.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to make sure it's or what, I don't know, probably it's some technology out there already. Reminders, just like, hey, you had a visit today. Have you put everything on the EDC? Has all
CRO has them, but I think Monday's better at that.
Yeah, so something like little reminders like
Yeah.
that, you know, I think it'll become handy because a coordinator, I mean, realistically, we leave him at like around 3 studies per person.
3 to 4, yeah.
3 to 4.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like a lot, but 2 of those, they stopped enrolling.
They're 2 per study. So
Yeah, they stopped enrolling, so they are just
it's about average.
Yeah.
4 is about average per coordinator, and in our case, we put 2 on each study, so there's 2 coordinators.
So yeah, I think, and the reason we did 2, one of the things that I was telling Dan that I think it's better to do is we put 2 coordinators for each study. Let's say they have a visit, and then right now we have a physical person doing the QA for that visit. Let's say employee A and employee B. Employee A run the visit, so we're asking employee B to do the QA for the visit, make sure we didn't miss anything. You know, we checked all the history, did everything we got to do. But I think in the near future, I'm not a programmer person, but there's gonna be some technology that does all of that for us. And then instead of having manpower using that, investing their time in that, we'll have the technology do it.
Yeah.
And
those are basically automated workflows that Monday can do. And CRO, it will surprise me if someone like CRO doesn't do that as well.
Yeah, so technology is going to be pivotal, especially in times where minimum wage is going up, where everything's more expensive. And I go back to the analogy that I said first. You know, almost in every workspace, you want to maximize every person that you have, you know. Hopefully not overwhelm them, but maximize their time, maximize their experience and all that. So with technology helping with little things like that, or maybe some of them are not so little, I think
you can get more.
You can get more, especially when we start thinking about network, you know.
Right.
I think.
Well, I was philosophically talking with the site owner yesterday on the pod, and it's over an hour, and the owner, founder, in our case, there's 3 of us, right? Me, you, and Chris, because the PI is not really, that's his role. But me, you, and Chris are like the owner operators. Mm-hmm. If we open a site, let's say San Luis, Arizona, will be easy because it's like still 20 minutes away.
It's drivable.
But if we did one in Nogales, Arizona, which is like 3 hours, or San Clemente, which we're about to do, although that one's more of a partnership, it loses something by not having us there. Like even me doing one-on-ones with the staff here, or you going in twice a week, it shows you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening. Whereas if you have another site you pay less attention to, I mean, unless you have a very good site director who you're keeping track of, you're gonna lose some of that efficiency.
I think that's the key. There will be to have a good site director. That's the only way that I can see that can happen. Or the other one I can think of is having a super good PI that has a little bit of time to supervise her more and be there more present. But as we know, PIs will typically be very, very busy.
Even the best one. So the one I interviewed yesterday, yes, but he doesn't do as much PI work anymore, and he doesn't do private practice work anymore. He just buys and sells clinics now. So he can do it, but he's essentially no longer operating as a physician. Which basically means owner operator at that point. So this is what sites need to do by 2030 if you're going to capitalize on this stuff. There's about 5 things you should do. Build branded patient communities. So this is what we're doing with our monthly webinars and our Instagram and our TikTok and our YouTube. So local marketing, which is something that I'm going to talk to you about with one of our employees, probably get her to do more of this. Community outreach, working with Patient ACE, like to integrate it into our system so that patients can schedule themselves to come in. I think you can do that. And newsletter education. So that's one's obvious, but most sites ignore the branding. We're one of the ones that actually do it. Most sites ignore it. Control the first touch point is number 2. So no waiting. This is going to be your favorite and your pet peeve of the staff. No waiting on feasibility. Proactively recruit. By the time that study starts, you should be ready to go. You should have a few
patients ready to go already.
Don't just wait for the green light and then start looking.
I mean,
now you're wasting another month.
I mean, and especially when they come and do the site selection business, or like, do you have patients in mind? And yes, we do. But at that point, we should like start pre-screening because we have, as Dan said, we've had huge databases.
And tech will be able to do that.
That's the other tech part of it. So, and especially when there is plenty of downtime or like plenty of time where it can be utilized better. Again, maximizing what we do, right? So I think it's pivotal, you know. But unfortunately, we're in an era where people are just not proactive. They have to like with Apple show what you want them to do. You know,
and this is where if those people don't adapt, I just said coordinators are safe. But the asterisk is coordinators that are willing to adapt to the times are safe, because a mediocre coordinator with a good attitude and a good tech is going to do better than a lazy one that's just sitting around.
And I mean, it's having staff. Dan Gibson saying it's like having kids. You just have to be more. Don't assume things will be done a certain way, right? So I think one of the things I'm gonna put on Monday that it's like when there's downtime, which usually there's plenty. It's pre-screen. We already know we have a couple studies coming up. Pre-screen, and that way when as soon as we get the letter like, hey, you're good to go, okay, we already have 3 people, and start scheduling.
Exactly.
I think that going back to relationships with the sponsors, especially the sponsors are more involved with the sites, and even the CROs. If they see that, they're gonna these people were ready. And obviously, don't bring anybody just to screen fail. Bring like adequate persons because they've been pre-screened, and I think they'll love that. I mean, I would if I were in their shoes, right? Then you keep on going back to them. Like we have studies coming back, offering new studies, sponsors or CROs, because we did well before.
Yeah,
and I like that. I love it.
And that's a good sponsor.
Yeah, and that's like that proves that we did good, and they liked us, and we're like, awesome, that's good.
And they would prefer that than relying on a CRO to find them 20 more sites that maybe can enroll.
Correct.
If they already found one that they know they can rely on, they're going to reinvest in us. They know sites are happy with new studies that are good.
Yeah.
Right? Initially, they give you the tougher studies, and then they start giving you the easier ones.
The better ones, yeah,
to reward you. I think this second one might be, I don't know. I'm kind of out of the loop on the details, but it seemed like it's easier.
Yeah. So I think I think that's pivotal. Transparency. I think our coordinators are super good with communication. I can see that.
Yeah.
Especially with the monitors, they keep on track. They talk to them, and I think that's another part of it. You have to like keep in touch. I talked to one of our coordinators, one of monitors yesterday, just because I couldn't understand something I had to fix, and once I talked to her, I was like, okay, this is better than going back and forth with emails.
Right.
It took us like less than 5 minutes, problem solved, and then I did a follow-up email. The monitor replied, and I was very happy that she answered my call. She was happy that I did what I had to do, because we were back and forth, like, what do you want me to do, and stuff like that, So I think the communication, it's pivotal.
Yeah, it's paramount. So the things sites must do by 2030: build branded communities, control the first touch point, proactively recruit, build out your patient ACE or whatever tool you're using, but we use patient ACE. You can actually build the pre-selection questions, and then the patients can screen themselves, basically. If they reach the final, they can schedule themselves. If they fail somewhere, we know where, and maybe that's another study.
Yeah.
That somebody, I think that role is a full-time, only that.
Yeah.
Because when you start giving coordinator, okay, you do this, they start doing only what they like and forgetting about the other stuff.
You mentioned that even a long time ago, where we had patients that screen failed, and you would ask, like, did they qualify for any other of our studies? And I never thought of that. They came in for, let's say, diabetes. I didn't think about arthritis. I didn't think about heart failure. I just thought diabetes, right? And that's a very good point. Like, where
some
did
of our
they
patients
start?
have so many comorbidities.
Yeah, and they can potentially qualify for different studies. So definitely, I agree with that, and I like that analogy.
But if you're so busy,
yeah,
you just gonna screen fail and move on. Thank you, patient. Goodbye. But no, somebody needs to be looking. Why? Oh, maybe that's something else.
I think it might even be worth it. I don't know. I'm just talking about patient ACE in this case, because that's what we use. Even if a patient doesn't qualify, a quick phone call.
Yeah.
And like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we do trials. We have blah, 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 blah trials. If you or somebody has any of this, we can definitely be in contact and pre-screen them a little bit more and whatnot. And that way a ad will not go to waste. And I think that'll be actually successful.
And some patients prefer the phone call.
Of course, we go back to the machine.
And there's different ways to do it. I mean, at our site, there's one person that's clearly best at that. But what other sites do is outsource that to even another country.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of options here. So
Yeah.
that's the controlling the touch point.
That's just one of the things that we were talking a little bit, because we're trying to build a site network, right? So obviously the pay for somebody that just answers the phone and all that is going to be different than an experienced coordinator. So we got to be careful in utilizing our resources the proper way too, because, we need this coordinator to see patients, to answer queries, to do all the coordinating stuff. But we also need somebody to make those phone calls. So something we tried is like on patient A's, if let's say you have a study for diabetes, then you are in charge of all the diabetic leads. And we try that, and I'm not sure how it's working.
I think the more I think of it is you need a department when you get big enough, but even when you're small enough, one person is in charge of only that for all the studies.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to do it, I think, properly, because now you can hold that person accountable as opposed to, oh, well, yeah, but I had to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, true. You are also a coordinator, and it's like you don't get it done properly on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think with these tools, the limit is not the volume. We can just spend $100 a day and get a lot more. It's just math.
Yeah.
It's somebody servicing it.
Yeah.
And that's the limit. It's not the money on the spend.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just a different layer of complexity. So the third one, offer continuity of care. This is something that you, Smith, and all of our PIs are probably good at. So your clinician partners to co-manage care during the trial. Mm-hmm. So you do this well, like patients in a study, you know what? You need this medication for your symptoms. Or even after the study, hey, thank you for doing the study. This is what I would recommend you do. You go see your doctor. Ideally, that's one of our clinicians. And then we'll keep you in touch for the next one. But somebody has to manage that.
Yeah.
Kind of, you don't just dump them off and...
No. Especially, and even during the trial, if we have a trial for high blood pressure and their thyroid comes up to be a little off, not necessarily exclusionary from the study, but also something that needs to be looked at. We partner with a clinician and be like, hey, you know what, this is the thyroid level, and that way they can manage that if they're not our own patients.
Yeah. And then post-trial follow-up. So number 4, aggregate and control the data. So we've been talking about patient ACE. That's fine. The one thing we haven't talked about just a little bit is the electronic medical records. Those are different systems. Patient ACE doesn't really do that. But there's another vendor I work with, Select IQ. I'm one of the advisors. And they're supposed to be able to log into the eClinicalWorks. I just texted them the other day. They think that they could do it now that we have a login.
Okay.
Well, they said it's worth a try again.
Okay, yeah.
But it's basically like AI that goes in the EMRs, trains on the protocols you have, and then lists the people. So that manual process of going to find patients is no longer manual. It's kind of automated.
Yeah, because that manual process, it is definitely tedious. You get a list of 1,000 patients with the diagnosis. You have to go one by one, make sure they don't take any exclusion.
This is much better.
Yeah, of course.
Because it flags from those thousands, here's 15 that I think are good, and it rates them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that technology, but it sounds...
I've only seen demos because unfortunately it hasn't worked yet for our system. But I'm talking to the guys next week, actually. On Zoom.
Nice. That's great.
If you want to join, you can.
That is a good technology.
Yes.
That is a good technology because you want the best patients. We have good patients all across the board, but the best ones are the ones that come from within your PI's clinics because they have the relationship already. It's not something you just build on what's there already, not something you have to create from scratch, pretty much.
Right.
And we tend to have better retention rates, better responses. We work very closely with their PCPs, so that's also good. So I think that technology, it's gonna come
Select
in very
IQ.
handy.
I'm an advisor. Haven't got to play around with it yet, unfortunately, but hopefully that changes. And it would be perfect timing with,
of course,
look at all these studies.
with all the studies coming over.
Now, the final thing is use AI like we've been discussing, but humanize it so the patient shouldn't feel like they're using AI. Like at the end of the day, you still need a real person to follow up. Tech should help you scale the trust, but not replace it. So that's the fifth thing. Now, not all the sites are going to survive this decade.
Unfortunately.
There's many that don't want to adapt. Not all the coordinators are going to survive. There's many that don't want to adapt. But you got to think, if you're a site, and especially like us, we have to think like a platform. How do we learned this from the PE, but how do we become the platform, right? And it starts with, how do we fix our one site first?
Of course. Not to make the first one right.
Before you scale into another one, which I think we got it almost there, just missing a few things.
I think so. I think definitely the best thing to do there is to hire right from the get-go. That's like, what did we say when we were hiring? We want the person with the right attitude, the right, willingness, eagerness to learn, rather than somebody trained that it has bad habits already, if you will.
I just have like a no asshole rule. That if you're not an asshole, you have a good chance. Like, we had some people very qualified, IMG. You can tell they were kind of assholes to you.
Yeah, no. We definitely don't want none of that. I mean, I'd rather do the job myself,
exactly,
than to have somebody come and create problems. But we also have other ones that are educated, college educated, university educated, and super hard workers.
Hopefully we get those ones coming up soon.
Yeah. And, so just have to, I think the attitude, it's very important. And then the training that comes after. But
so think like a platform. If you're a site, like, that's how you scale. You fix your site first, and then you can scale it. Act like community clinic when you do. So like in Yuma, people start knowing us by the content we create and going out to events. If we go to another community, that's going to be branded as something else, whether it's St. Clemente Clinical Research or San Luis Clinical Trials. I mean, you're going to brand for that community, right? And then build with the consumer mindset. So you have to think about the patients. Patients are not going to care who's running the trial. What they care about is, do I trust these people that I'm going to clinic with? They could care less if it's Eli Lilly or any of the sponsors. They care about who's
the end worker, if you will.
Who's got the needle in my vein? And
who's giving me this IP.
Exactly. And how do they treat me when they talk to me? And that's it.
That's one of the things that I think in that sense is like, always be professional, especially in front of patients, right? But if we practice being professional when there's no patients, it'll be easy when there's patients. Because we haven't run into this issue, but I seen in regular clinics where they don't like a certain clinic just because the staff was not professional. They were like slender or just not professional. So the patients don't like that. I had patients come to us and be like, oh no, they didn't treat me with respect there, or they were just joking around and whatnot. So always do that, and especially again, if you want to grow, if you want to scale it, the site up, then the foundations have to be there.
I think so. So just a call to action for the sites out there. If you're serious about building a future-proof site or a network, which we're trying to do both, you need to start owning the relationships now with the patients and not waiting for someone to give you a study.
Correct.
I think that's just the bottom line. And Jaime, if you got anything else to add?
No, I think...
Go follow him on LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn's pretty good, no?
Yeah, it's there.
You get some followers? I've got to get Jaime some more, maybe.
I'm not the most active social media person or LinkedIn person, but I'm there.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the 10-part series. Wow.
Awesome. Wow.
I was glad you got to be on it. And now we'll talk some business here. But
of course.
Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye-bye. Hey, if you guys like that kind of content, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Stay tuned for more videos.